Before we get going, Outside the Chute would like to thank one of their sponsors, Coldstream Clear. Have you tried the new strawberry kiwi? Man, this stuff is good. Ditch the sugar with a fresh and flavorful vodka soda. Is iced tea your drink of choice? Well, Coldstream has both peach and lemon flavor. Taste the real tea difference. The only truly local hard iced tea made in the hub of Nova Scotia. Or maybe you're into mixing your own drinks. Coldstream has a huge selection of rum, vodka, liqueurs, and the must-try coffee rum cream. Visit them online at coldstreamclear.com and check out their amazing selections. Look for new products around all Atlantic provinces in the coming months, and they ship all across Canada. Again, that's coldstreamclear.com, Nova Scotia's original. Hey, another week started. Hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. Welcome to episode 32 of Outside the Chute. I'm your host, Randy Frame. Before we get going, this past week has been a tough one on us here in the fast pitch world as we lost two prominent names. On behalf of myself and Outside the Chute, we'd like to pass along our sincere condolences to the family and friends of Ken Hill and the Six Nations Reserve in Ontario. Ken was instrumental in the formation of the Hill United Chiefs, who have gone on to win 4 ISC world titles to date and become an absolute powerhouse in the game across North America. Ken will definitely be missed by players past and present. Also, our condolences to the family and friends of the great left-handed pitcher and ISC Hall of Famer, Ty Stofflet. Ty was a 5-time ISC All-World player who would win his first one in 1967 and his last at the age of 51 in 1992. Ty would also be named Most Outstanding Pitcher and Most Valuable Player on 2 occasions at the ISCs. Again, our condolences to both individuals, family, and friends. This week's OTC Player of the Week comes to us from Virginia as Riley Johnson of the Virginia Unity 14U Johnson team takes home the honors. Riley hit .429 with a double, triple, 5 runs scored, and a perfect 5 for 5 in stolen bases as she helped her team to a second-place finish at the PGF Arizona Invite. Great job, Riley, and best of luck in 2021. Now on to this week's guest, and we sat down and chatted with Texas Longhorn alum, current U.S. national team member, and one of the best pitchers to ever play the game, Kat Osterman. Kat's list of accomplishments are endless, as she has the NCAA record for strikeouts per 7 innings over her career with 14.34, second all-time in strikeouts with 2,265, 4 Big 12 Pitcher of the Year awards, Olympic gold in 2004, as well as the first ever Athletes Unlimited champion, just to name a few. We're going to talk to Kat about getting her start in the game in her home state of Texas, her storied career with the Texas Longhorns, winning Olympic gold in 2004, the awesome new Athletes Unlimited League from this past summer, and much more. Kat was incredible to chat with. You know, I've been following her career and watching her since 2006, so the fact that she took time out of her hectic schedule to chat with us on here means the world to me. And, you know, I wish her all the best, not only in the game, but in life following as well. So as usual, grab that drink, sit back, relax, because here we go.
I got the world in my palm, like camera action, it's on. I can't describe what I'm feeling, ain't never felt this freedom. I got the world in my palm, like camera action, it's on. Ain't never felt this freedom. Could you say that anything goes, anything goes, anything goes, anything goes, anything goes, anything goes.
All right, here we go. Kat, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
How's the training going down in Florida?
So far so good. You know, I think for us, it's just a matter of finally being back together. I think someone counted and it had been 299 days since we broke in March and first got here in Florida to train. So long time coming, but obviously we're enjoying being around each other again and getting back to work, you know, with our goal in mind.
Yeah, I was going to say it must be nice to finally have majority of you all back together anyway.
Yeah, you know, I think here and there, a few of us found each other working clinics or live close enough to train, but quite a few of us have been by ourselves for a long while. So it's nice just be able to see someone, run next to somebody, just talk while you're taking swings, whatever it is, and kind of enjoy that camaraderie because I think if anything, quarantine and COVID taught us is just the monotony of things and how much we are social people.
Yeah, absolutely. So have the coaching staff given you an outline of how the spring and summer is going to run, or is it too early for them to make that call?
It's really too early for them to give us a whole lot. We have dates. They've told us to block off certain dates because that's when we're trying to do things. But I think, in the past, our tour has primarily been us playing colleges. And right now, most of the colleges here in the United States haven't even released their schedules. So it's hard for us to plan anything. But we have dates that we're going to be training, or at least they asked us to block off to be training. So it looks like about 2 weeks a month up until June. And then I think pretty much everyone, for safety of COVID, will start bubbling around June to make sure that, we're not exposed to people and such like that.
Right. Have they given any indication if, for Tokyo, if you'll have to go in early to bubble or anything like that?
They haven't told us yet. I know, I think our plan was to already head over that way early anyways, but they haven't told us a plan if it has to be earlier or anything like that yet.
Right on. Well, with every guest we have on the podcast, I always like to start off with tell us when and where you got your start in the game.
So my first start was actually probably in first grade. I played, and first through fifth graders were on the same team, and it was kids pitch. And that's just not very fun when you're, 6 and a 10 or 11-year-old is pitching at you. And so I actually quit in lieu of soccer for a while, for about 4 years, and then got bored playing soccer, and my dad suggested trying to play softball again. So I did, and thankfully someone let me try to pitch at some point, because really, truly, I fell in love with pitching more than I did the game of softball. Obviously, the game itself became a love of mine as well, but just once I stepped in the circle for the first time, I ran to my dad and told him I think that's what I want to do. So thankfully, I found my passion rather quickly in this game. Yeah,
I'm a pitcher as well, and I know exactly what you mean. I can remember I started throwing when I was 6, I believe. Yeah, and I can remember getting that first strikeout and thinking, oh, this is what I want to do. You know what I mean? So. But you said that you had 11-year-olds pitching against you when you were 6?
Yeah. So 2 leagues had just split off and become their own, they were one and they split to be 2 independent leagues. And so, first through fifth graders were playing together, and it was kid pitch. And so, first grade, you're 6 or 7. And right now I have a stepdaughter who's 9 and she's in 4th grade. So 5th grade is 10 or 11, depending on when your birthday is.
Right.
And so, we were all together, which is a very drastic talent level when you're talking about.
It would be
just getting started, and you have 10 or 11-year-olds flinging balls at you.
Wow. Yeah, that is quite an age difference.
Right.
I want to talk about your time with Cypress Springs High School and travel ball competition. Was there a point that you thought, wow, I really have a special talent that I could do something with this?
I think probably sophomore or junior year of high school. One, I grew. I started high school at 5'6" and finished at 6 foot. So that just shows you, I shot up somewhere in there. But in between my junior and senior year, my travel team, actually, the Katy Cruisers, got to play against the 2000 national team as they toured before they went to Sydney. And that game in particular I was already being recruited by colleges, so I knew that, okay, I was going to go on and play college. But as far as national team level, wasn't sure where I was at, but I played them and I pitched 5 innings, gave up 1 hit and struck out 11. And I think after that is when I looked at my dad and was like, I think I can do this. I can keep doing this for a while, and I want to play on that team. So that game in particular stood out. Around that time in travel ball, I was starting to pitch some big games and have some really big outings against really good teams. And, obviously players that were going to go to the perennial powerhouses in college. So about my junior year is when I realized, okay, this is, a little more than just I'm good and I can go to college.
Right. Was there anybody during that time that you would have been playing against that, would have made a name for themselves later on, like yourself?
Not on my travel team, so to speak. I mean, we had a couple girls that went on. Aya McMichael played at Mississippi State and played in pro ball. Lindsey Gardner, who I played with in travel ball and college, she was on the national team for a while, for a little bit, and then she played pro ball as well. So there are some that, they went on and played some professionally and might have been in the USA pool for a bit, but none that consistently stayed in the national team with me.
Right. Now, you'd end up committing to the University of Texas. I'm guessing with your Texas roots, would I be right in saying the Longhorns were always your number one destination?
Yeah. So growing up in Texas, you choose either Aggies or Longhorns at a young age, and usually it's like family ties. But my parents are both from Illinois, so neither one had ties to anything in Texas. And I don't know what about it, even before I really started playing softball, like made me love Texas. But I did. I asked for, a University of Texas t-shirt for Christmas one year, and I got it, and I loved it so much. And so yeah, when it came time to go into recruiting, I had asked my dad if he thought I'd be good enough to be able to go to Texas, even if it meant walking on. And so that was kind of in our sights the whole time. I did take other visits. I did talk to a lot of other coaches and get a grand perspective of the college atmosphere before making my choice. But yeah, Texas was pretty much my dream school. And when I visited there, I felt perfectly at home. And so yeah, committed on my visit.
Nice. What was your first impression of Red and Charlene McCombs Field and the whole facility?
I loved it. At the time, it was kind of, it was a very pristine stadium and an awesome setup. And, with the fans actually being above the field, it was really cool. It's almost like they're looking down upon you. I know most stadiums now, they're field level and everybody loves that. But at the time, it was awesome. And, to me, I go back there and there have been some alterations made and such. And it's different, but I still love being able to walk in and just, you're on your own level when the fans have to be, a little bit higher than you. And it was a place that I called home for a long time. And, I enjoyed being able to go there every single day and be able to work. But at the same time, there were days you could catch me there on the off day, just laying in the outfield, being able to soak it all in.
Nice. Didn't they add like a hitting facility inside it, like beside the stadium or something like that?
Yeah, they just added kind of a clubhouse hitting, like it's a new locker room, a new team room, coaches' offices. There's indoor cages, all of that's new. Yeah, they just added and opened that this fall.
Yeah, the players there, they must really enjoy that.
Yeah.
So usually there's growing pains in the first season for a lot of people, but you seem to put that assumption to bed, going 36-8 with a 0.83 ERA. Being named to the Big 12 first team as well as pitcher of the year. You threw 5 no-hitters with 3 perfect games. That's insane. What was your biggest takeaway from the freshman season?
Well, I mean, I had my growing pains. My first weekend out was relatively terrible. And, thankfully my dad made the trip to be able to come down there and kind of help talk me through it. But I think the difference was I wanted to learn how to fix it really quick. And so I took that first weekend and went back to work on, okay, what do I have to change? What do we need to make better? What do we need to do in order for this not to happen again? So, and the other part is I was super comfortable with my coaches and my teammates. By the time I was a sophomore, I think there were like 6 of us that had played together, 6 or 7 that had played together that were all at Texas playing. So it was kind of a very familiar feel. And so it wasn't like a whole new environment I had to jump into. But I do remember I wanted to jump in somewhere. Like that was part of my choice to go to when I was looking at colleges, was where can I go and get a lot of experience as a freshman. The powerhouses, UCLA had Kira Garrell and Amanda Freed still. Arizona had Jenny Finch and Jenny Glading still. Like I wanted to go somewhere where I would be able to pitch and not feel like I was going to have to, work for my innings, so to speak, or, I wanted to be thrown into the fire. And I was able to do that. And Coach Clark did a wonderful job managing both me and the other freshman, Amy Bradford, who came in with me. We were both thrown into the fire and it was kind of sink or swim. And thankfully we both figured out how to swim really quick. because the only other pitcher we had was a sophomore who ended up getting hurt. So Amy and I had to carry the whole load our freshman year. And, the success was there in the writing itself, but both of us wanted that, and we wanted that experience. And so to be able to get it and embrace it, it's pretty cool, because I think some people want it, and then when they realize how deep they're in it, they're not sure how to embrace it. And then, that's where you sink a little bit. But, I wanted to figure out how to be successful at the next level. And so I was all ears and a sponge a little bit. And thankfully my coaches were able to help me navigate that, and make it a relatively quick transition versus a prolonged rough freshman year.
Right. Now, I think I read or heard that your first perfect game that you threw in that freshman year, that you didn't realize that you actually threw the perfect game?
No, I didn't. It was the first game of a doubleheader. It was kind of cold outside. And it's weird, because usually I have an idea of what's going on, but it might have just been because it was cold.
I know what you mean.
And the game ended, and they made an announcement over the speaker. And I also didn't know there hadn't been a perfect game in the program history up to that point. And so they made the announcement that I had just thrown the first perfect game of my career, but also in program history, and kind of caught me off guard, because I didn't, I obviously was focusing on trying to get through the game in the cold versus what everything had happened in the game. But it was pretty cool. And, obviously the first of some, I don't want to say the first of many, but first of some. And, just being able to see our fans react to it. And for me, it was kind of, I think, my moment where I knew I was going to be able to make my mark at Texas.
Yeah, that would have been amazing. Amazing. What's the word? I'm trying to come up with a word here, but yeah, that would have been an amazing moment, especially for a freshman. And like you said, when you're a pitcher, when you get in the zone, it's funny. There's sometimes that you don't really realize that, wow, I'm throwing a really good game until it's over. And that's funny that you didn't know that you had a perfect game. So I wanted to bring that up. Sophomore season, you get the Longhorns to the Women's College World Series for the second time in its history. What do you recall about the atmosphere in that first College World Series for you?
I remember no matter how many big games we had played up to that point, the nerves were just more. And it wasn't like we hadn't played on that stadium. Big 12 tournament was hosted in that stadium, so we were familiar with it. But I remember our first game, we played Louisiana Lafayette, and I just remember being out there and kind of shaking, like nervous shaking, and, couldn't figure out why, because obviously had played by that point, almost 100 games in college. And, what's the big deal, so to speak? It's not the championship yet, but it was just the fact that you finally kind of got to the promised land. And I remember that, the nerves, and I think the nerves didn't leave me, unfortunately, until I gave up a 2-run home run. And then after that, it was like, okay, we're here for business. And I settled down, and thankfully my team came back and scored runs in that first game to get us, staying in the winner's bracket. But for the nerves to kind of settle down. So for me, that was kind of the first big nerve-wracking moment. But the atmosphere of the World Series was just incredible. And, it's changed so much over time. Now it's 100-fold of what we experienced. But just to kind of be there with the crowds, and, Oklahoma City has just huge softball fans in general. And, during Big 12, they obviously cheer for OU, but when Texas made the World Series, they were cheering for us too, which was really cool. And so it was just a really fun environment to be able to have our fans drive up, but at the same time, just experience kind of what we had all heard about and never really seen with our own eyes.
Right. Now, would I be right in saying that, like, when you get to the Women's College World Series, that every little detail matters in every game?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, you can't make an overemphasis on every little thing, but yes, I mean, it can come down to one pitch. It can come down to one mistake. Later in my career, it did, one bobbled ball in the outfield cost us a game and ended up, putting us in a loser's bracket. And then you get in a situation where you have to win back to back against people and things like that. So, one mistake can change the game. But that can happen in any other game too. So, I think the old adage, you try to act like you've been there before, but until you settle the nerves, it's hard to treat it just like any other game.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that your first two seasons were exactly what you needed to be ready for 2004?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, other schools I mentioned that I had recruited me that had other pitchers, I don't think I grow and mature and can handle high pressure situations if I go somewhere where I'm not thrown in the fire as a freshman and sophomore. And so I have said a few times in other interviews and with Olympic stuff that I don't think I make that 04 team if I had gone anywhere else to go to school. And, you never know. Hindsight's 2020. And there's some people that can probably say, oh no, we would have pitched you or this and that, but you don't know that because you don't know how I would have performed in a different uniform or a different environment.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I went somewhere where I had comfort and I knew I was going to get to throw. And, thankfully coach knew too that was my goal. And so, without being too pushy and too all up in everything, she did a really good job of managing me and keeping me on a path to where, I could be successful and be ready for that 2004 tryout.
Yeah. So 2004 was a pretty big year for you. The Olympic Games in Athens, Greece. You guys take home the gold medal. Maybe walk us through that, because I can only imagine how amazing that must have been.
Yeah, 2004 was it was mind blowing, to be honest. It was a whirlwind. It was amazing. It was any positive adjective you can come up with. It was, but I think being the youngest, I came in and was very much going to do what I'm told. Follow everyone else's lead. Thankfully, Lori Harrigan took me under her wing, helped kind of groom me, nurse me, and to be ready when my number was called. And but traveling across the world or across the country as much as we did that year, we actually went to Italy for 2.5-3 weeks in April, and that was for me the first time I had gone out of the country for a long period of time. Before that, it was like to Canada Cup. Or to Pan Am's, but that's usually like a week. This is, 3.5 weeks. Yeah. And it was really just kind of eye-opening to get to experience so many different things with a group of women who were so determined to be able to take the field and present the best softball that you could ever see. And then looking back to have, Sports Illustrated name us the dream team. And truly, I can say that team, we operated like we were a dream team. It was a well-oiled machine by the time we got over there, and just to experience the games in the capacity that we did, being able to score as many runs as we did and just kind of be in control of almost every game. It was incredible. And I am so fortunate to be able to have been on that team and experience that. And, coming back now, being able to share that experience and what it was like. And how we got there and how we got to be like that. Cause it wasn't like we were all just named to a team and all of a sudden, boom, we, tallied up runs. Like the way we trained every day and every chance we got was incredible. And I'm just very fortunate that I was able to do that at such a young age and learn the way you should approach practice and games from an incredible group of women.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine. Now, were you guys there for the opening ceremonies?
No, so we played the next morning. So we weren't allowed to go, or well, I should say, I think we played at noon, but because opening ceremonies last so long and transportation, you really don't get home till like 3 or 4 in the morning. And
right.
With a game early the next afternoon, we did not go. We watched on TV, and then everyone got ready for bed and went to bed because we were there for business. And as Coach said, he's like, you can celebrate and do all the fun stuff once we've taken care of business.
Yeah. So it must have been a pretty cool moment getting awarded that gold medal though.
Oh yeah. Anytime you get to hear your national anthem while you're on the podium with the medal around your neck is incredible. But, for the first time, I think that was kind of an Olympic team that had been recreated. Obviously we had some veterans, to guide us and to play an important role, but you had a lot of youngsters. And so for us to be able to carry on the tradition of winning a gold medal was huge. And, there's no other experience like it, to be honest. It doesn't matter. World championships are nice. Pan American games are nice. But, when you hear your national anthem at the Olympics, it's a whole different level.
Oh, absolutely. So you'd finish up your time with the Longhorns with 2 more Women's College World Series appearances and rewriting the record books. What would you say was your greatest takeaway from your time at University of Texas?
Oh, the greatest takeaway. I think the biggest thing is one, going there, like I mentioned, there were 6 or 7 of us that had played together. So it was getting to be able to continue to play with people that you can call friends and family. But then too, by the time I left, there's a core group of the girls that were my bridesmaids in my wedding and stuff that, they are my closest friends. They're my inner circle, my confidants. And being able to have that, because we experienced so much in a formidable years of our life, that's probably the biggest takeaway. But I think the other part was just the fun of, I think we weren't the underdogs sometimes by ranking, but we were the underdogs because everyone else kind of perceived it as like, well, they have Kat, but if we can score off her, then, we could probably win. And just seeing my team battle back from me and go into battle to get the 1 run or the 2 runs that we need to win a game. Just kind of getting to see, the underdog mentality come out every day, because you never know what's going to happen until the game's played. And thankfully we had enough grit and perseverance that we were able to be very successful.
Right on. So is there a record or like anything big that, that stands out to you from your time there? Like, is there something you're like, wow, I can't believe I did that?
Yeah, I mean, now looking back at it, obviously, I'm second all time in strikeouts, but I'm number 1 all time in strikeouts per 7 innings. And when you look at it, I want to say it's like 14 point something. And to think that you strike out 2 or more an inning is kind of crazy.
It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous.
Like sometimes I would set it as a goal, but like to think how many times I actually executed that for that to be the average over and over is just crazy to think about, especially as I get older now. And yeah. I'm like, if I get 1 an inning, I'm excited. But just, I don't want to say the ease I did it with, but like just the consistency I did it with.
Right.
It's pretty incredible. And I think that's my biggest thing. Like looking back, I'm like, wow, like now that I put it in perspective, they're telling me usually only 7 balls were put in play. Like
that's insane.
It's going to be hard to score runs if only 7 balls are put in play. So it makes sense. But, that's probably the one kind of game-changing thing when people talk. And I'm like, yeah, I obviously didn't realize what I was doing or the magnitude of what I was doing at the time.
Right. Yeah, I know. I saw that record and I was like, what? I was like, and like you said, it averages out to 2 an inning. I was like, that is crazy. Over a 4-year career. Like that's just, It's phenomenal. So your first ever National Pro Fast Pitch game, that's pretty crazy in itself. 12-inning, 1-0 win over Jenny Finch and the Chicago Bandits, where you struck out 24 batters. Quite a way to make a debut, huh?
Yeah, that was, that was an interesting start to everything. It was so highly touted that, we were going to play this crosstown rivalry. They were trying to do this big pit meet, but, we're friends. And so it's like, they tried to make us do kind of a stare down photo shoot and we couldn't do it. We were laughing. They ended up, I think, putting us back to back, like looking off in other directions. But it was cool. I mean, it was, we were in Rockford in a little tiny kind of city park, so to speak, but we had, I want to say, they said we had like 1,500, 2,000 people like packed in there, standing room, standing out amongst the outfield fence. Like it was just crazy. And then for it to go, 12 innings, and thankfully we finally won 1-0. But, kind of the debut you want, but you don't want, because now the expectation's set.
Mm-hmm. So I wondered what's the travel like? Like how do the days work in the pro league?
It changes. Unfortunately, there's not very much consistency in schedules and things. So you could fly in and play in the same night. You can drive in and play in the same day. Sometimes you might get there earlier. I think that's kind of the one downfall with at least professional softball, is the fact that, to stay on some type of routine to keep your body going the way it needs to go is really hard. Because there were times we would land at noon and we'd be playing at 6 p.m. And, it's still not great to get off a plane, even if you have 6 hours and go play.
Yeah.
there was a running joke one year that I put in my contract I wouldn't pitch if we flew in the day. And I was like, I didn't put it in my contract, guys. I just said I would prefer not to. Would like to get my legs under me a little bit.
Yeah.
But, so I think that's the hard part is I feel like, MLB, other sports, they get a rhythm and they get a routine, and they have weight rooms there at their MLB facility that they can go work out in. And, meanwhile, we're like paying $25 for a guest pass at the local gym or whatever, just to try to keep our bodies going. So, travel sometimes can be on a bus. It sometimes can be in vans. Sometimes it can be flying. Rockford, if we could bus, we bussed. One time we bussed home. Well, I think the team might have bussed to Philly, but I met them in Philly because I had been with the national team prior to that. But then we bussed home from Philly, and that's like a 13-hour bus ride. Thankfully, I slept about 9 of it because we left, at midnight and got home the next day. But, it's kind of the old school travel, and it was a little rough. And then by the end, that's when I retired, when I really felt like I couldn't keep a routine that kept my body in a good place.
Right. So would there be any like that you would notice that had a really tough time adjusting to that kind of schedule?
No, not really. I mean, it's person to person. I think the hardest part is just as pitchers when you fly in and you're expected to pitch that night. And you're a little rushed to get your baggage, to get to the hotel. Let's figure out how to decompress, but then not too much, so that way you're still ready to go to play and things like that. But it's just person to person, and right. I think we all want to play professionally enough that you figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah, for sure. So during your years playing professionally, is there any big moments that stick out to you that you're like, yeah, that was pretty awesome?
Well, our 2009 NPF championship was pretty cool because on paper, there's no way anyone was predicting us to win it. I thought we had a good team. We had good team chemistry more than anything. But we ended up winning it and coming back and beating the Pride at the time, which had Monica Abbott, 2 games on the last day to be able to be champions. And I think just kind of shocked everyone that was following the NPF at that time. And then after that, I mean, obviously anytime you win a championship, it's nice, but being able to play for the Pride for the next 8 years after that 2009 championship, that was, one of the few times that I felt like I truly was being treated like a professional, as far as, our owner would take us to dinner. He would treat us right. We were put up in nice condos, things like that, to where we could be successful at home. And he tried to do his best to give us the best, everything he could as we traveled and stuff.
Awesome. So you got involved in coaching the last number of years at Texas Tech. How do you enjoy that side of the game?
I love coaching. I got my start at DePaul University right out of college, and then went to a D2 school, St. Edward's in Austin after that. And then, I finished up the last 6 years at Texas State University in San Marcos, Texas. And, coaching college and college softball was kind of my dream job. Unfortunately, had to step away in order to do this Olympic journey and just some other things at home with my family to have some more time there. But it was my dream job, and I loved it. I loved being able to pour into athletes and help them, become the best version of themselves before they go off into the quote unquote real world. I felt like I benefited so much from so many of my coaches that I truly enjoyed being able to be that for athletes as well. And then obviously just fortunate enough to be able to do it in Central Texas, where I like to call home, and, be granted with some really great athletes that, wanted to work, wanted to learn, and it was a great environment.
So is this something that you see down the road being, more of a full-time thing, or is too early to tell?
I don't know. I've been doing it 12 years full time. So, the break I'm doing from it right now, I don't know if I'll go back to it or not.
Right.
There's no telling, but I was doing it full time for 12 years and just needed some more time to myself while training.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. I mean, you need that time.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about the Athletes Unlimited League this past summer. We had Victoria Hayward on here, and I told her that I thought the whole concept was amazing. I mean, I loved the point scoring structure, the drafting of the teams weekly. The play was so entertaining to watch, and it seemed like everyone was having so much fun. Now, I know it wasn't the Olympic Games that you were scheduled to do, but safe to say that was a pretty good way to spend the summer, especially the way the year went.
Yeah. I've told a couple, like I obviously, when I first heard about Athletes Unlimited, was like, no way, because I was going to be done playing. There was no part of me that wanted to continue to play after the Olympics in 2020. And so thought the concept was kind of interesting. Had some questions that, I posed to people and was like, how is this going to work and that one work? But then obviously when the postponement came about, I had to figure out, what's the best way to get to a competition, to get playing, to do something other than sit at home. And thankfully they made an offer and I was able to play. And that was some of the best, I shouldn't say the best softball I played, but some of the best softball I played, but some of the most fun I've had playing this game. And we all thoroughly enjoyed it and really just took advantage of being able to be around each other, play the game, and learn from each other day in and day out.
Yeah, it's like watching it. It really looked like every single person there was having the time of their lives. Like it looked like a lot of fun. Did you enjoy doing the draft? Because I know I would love doing the draft.
Yeah, the draft part was really fun for me. I think being a coach, I kind of had an idea of what I would do as we went in, and then obviously week by week was able to kind of fine tune things and follow players and see what was going on. So I enjoyed that part. I think there were some people that felt a little overwhelmed with it, but I think having coached for so long, I was able to do that and manage continuing to play with some ease.
Mm. Like, I imagine it got was it 6 weeks? Did you guys do 6 weeks? Was it, or was it longer than that? I'm trying to remember.
5 weeks we were there for 6 weeks, but 5 weeks.
5 weeks of playing. So during the last couple of weeks doing the draft, it must have been, you got a sense of, after watching everybody play for 3 weeks, you would know exactly what you needed for the point scoring system. Is that how it went?
Yeah, you kind of know what you need, but then at the same time, you're trying to figure out, what the other captains are going to need. Obviously, if the majority of captains are pitchers, then you don't have to select them right off the bat, or because everyone has at least a primary pitcher and things like that. So sometimes it was trying to second out smart, making picks. And obviously week 4 is when my team didn't do the best. And every time I said, okay, well, we'll get so-and-so in the next round, by the time it came our turn, they were gone. So I was like, okay, something went wrong this week, to where literally every time we said we were going to get someone, they weren't there anymore. But it was fun. It was a fun added bonus to be able to have that as part of our experience.
Yeah. Now I asked Vic this question when she was on. Was there anybody that jumped out to you that you've never really seen before that really impressed you?
Well, there were quite a few young ones that I don't know much about, to be honest. I didn't know much about Morgan Howe, who obviously had a great season. I enjoyed playing with Jordan Roberts and watching her make the most of every opportunity she was given, especially when she was on my team. So that was really cool to see, because by the end of the last week, she was in my everyday lineup, and that was really fun to get to see her really just run with the chances she was given. So there were quite a few young ones that I didn't know a whole lot about, but those two probably stood out the most.
Right on. Now, the Sports Illustrated article, The Unrelenting, that came out after it was all over, which it was a list of the most powerful, most influential, and most outstanding women in sports right now. That must have been a pretty proud moment for yourself to be listed along with Erica, Jess, and Vic.
Yeah, I think that was really cool, especially for them to just recognize Athletes Unlimited in general. It is a game-changing avenue right now. And so for them to highlight the 4 of us that were able to finish on top of the leaderboard, but then just, allow us to kind of push our platform a little bit was really, really cool. So when they shared that with us, I think we were all really super excited.
Right on. Now, we do a little thing on the podcast, usually at the end here, that it's called Player Association.
Okay.
I'm going to throw out a name, and you can say as much or as little as you want about them. So I'm going to start off the first one with Coach Connie Clark.
Oh, Coach Clark. Well, I know that her license plate read Rise Ball in college. And then,
did it really?
Yeah. We often went back and played in Fullerton, and so her her teammates would give us all the little tidbits about what was funny about her. But Coach Clark, patient, encouraging, and for me, I will always be indebted for her to give me the opportunity she gave me and allowing me to grow and get experience so quickly in the college game. I just will never be able to fully pay her back for the opportunity she gave me that allowed me to have the springboard to get into the national team program.
Nice. Next on the list is Lindsay Gardner.
Lindsay, we played every single level of softball together, which is pretty cool to think about. And to be honest, I joined her dad's team when I was 16 because she was committed to Texas, and I hoped that got me in front of their eyes. But she's an incredible player. She's incredibly crafty, and she's that pesky hitter that's hard to get out, but she's that sneaky base runner that always finds a way to get an extra base. And just being able to play with her made me better, but at the same time was just so much fun to watch. But I enjoyed very many years just being able to talk softball, talk life, and have her by my side as the journey unfolded for me, especially early in my career.
Excellent. Next is Lori Harrigan.
Oh, Lori. Again, another one I think I'm indebted to for a long time. She was the left-handed veteran when I got into the program, and without hesitation, she took me under her wing and kind of helped me be able to navigate, not necessarily pitching itself, but more of growing up in this program and figuring out how to carry myself and how to communicate better, and just the role that us non-hitting pitchers have, because obviously you can go to school and sometimes they let the non-hitting pitchers just kind of hang out over by the fence most of practice. But, we have duties. When infield's running ground balls, we're running buckets. When they're hitting, we're shagging and running buckets in, and just things like that. But I will forever be indebted because she was kind of my mama bear for 2003 and 2004 on this team. And I think it could have easily been easy for her to just kind of let me be and figure things out on my own and not extend that arm to help. But she really did help me grow. And I think part of my ability to be successful in this program from 01 to 10 just really surrounds the fact that she was able to impart so much on me and keep me in a good place at a young age to where I was able to kind of continue that on after she retired. Yeah,
it's great when you're that young and you can have somebody like that to, guide you along. Right. Next is Jenny Finch.
Jenny and I, we shared the mound for, I think, a solid 8 years in the national team, and love her to death. We are probably very opposite as far as if you were to meet us on the street, but, we've always been friends. We don't necessarily see each other and talk a whole lot, but when we do, it's always, we just kind of pick up right where we left off. And I know if I needed her, I could call, and vice versa. But an amazing person, obviously a tremendous ambassador for our sport, but someone I'm fortunate to be able to look at and say, yeah, that's my friend, and not necessarily starstruck, because obviously we entered kind of the national team around the same time. But, we shared the mound, and we were opposites pitching wise and everything. And so I think we were a good complement, and just being able to talk with her and jog down the fence and talk about anything and everything is when we weren't throwing, all that, just so many days spent with her, and I cherish all of them. And I'm just super proud of what she did when she was playing and what she's been able to continue to do, even we're 10 plus years since she retired. So, in all these years since she retired.
Awesome. Two more.
Okay.
Victoria Hayward.
Oh, Vic. I didn't know much about Vic until we played Athletes Unlimited together this past summer. And to be honest, I didn't know what to expect, but we both figured out we were very similar people personality-wise, super competitive, super kind of control freak, so to speak. So we're twins in some way, but her passion and energy is just contagious. And I loved being around her both on and off the field. And, truly a friend that I will have for years on out from here on out, since we played. And it's kind of crazy to think, in a 6-week time, I made a new lifelong friend.
That's awesome. Last one is Randy Rupp Hennigan.
Randy Hennigan. I have a hard time calling her Randy Hennigan. I've said to many people that my pride and joy as a coach, I love all my pitchers and love to see them succeed, and just being able to see her go from weekend one as a freshman to where she got banged around the yard and we were in tears, to being an All-American twice at a mid-major, just showed her trust in me, her comfort factor with, the changes I was making with her, but at the same time, just her ability to be able to adjust and compete. It's really hard, I feel like, in our region, because, we have all the Big 12 schools. Sometimes you get, LSU or some of those other schools in our region, so to speak. So for her to be able to do that is tremendous. And not to mention, as a coach, you look at her, she's an incredible human being. She wants to give back. She just carries herself the right way. She's a representation of your program and anyone that she's come into contact with. She's amazing. So love her to death, and thankful that I got to spend Athletes Unlimited with her and kind of full circle come around and go from coaching to competing together.
Awesome. One final question before you go.
All right.
What's in store after Tokyo, or is it too early?
It's too early. The door's open to possibly do Athletes Unlimited again. So the door's open. Not fully sure yet, but at some point in 2021, I will be done playing. But too early to tell exactly when yet.
Right on. Well, Kat, I need to thank you for coming on the podcast. I know you had a hectic schedule going on. For you to take your time to come on is an absolute huge moment for the podcast. So I appreciate that very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right. So all the best in Tokyo.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Kat.
For the clouds to part and let the light shine through. I wanna wake up to a better tomorrow. 'Cause I've had enough. Where is the trust? Where is the truth? It's about time for some good news. I've been waiting on some good news. For the clouds to part and let the light shine through. I wanna wake up to a better tomorrow. 'Cause I've had enough. Where is the trust? Where is the truth? It's about time for some good news.
I'm just happy to be breathing. I ain't trying to see what's on the newscast this evening. Nah, I don't need no reason. Music in the air, got the Grammys on the cable. Dinner on the plate, whole family at the table. This at home cook, hit your soul, take your shoes off. This that feel good, yelling loud from the rooftop. This that snow day, all the kids taking school off. This that Billie Jean, Michael Jackson first moonwalk. And I've been waiting for some good news, good news. I'm just trying to get my foot loose. And we've been dealing with the wrong things so long. The smallest things can make it right, that's why we hold on for some good news.
I've been waiting on some good news. For the clouds to part and let the light shine through. I wanna wake up to a better tomorrow. 'Cause I've had enough. Where is the trust? Where is the truth? It's about time for some good news.
Can you tell me something good that you remember when you were growing up?
I lived on a farm.
What's something in your life that made you feel good?
I'm feeling like we never talk about what's going right. My daughter's smiling 'cause of racist.